Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, this is Glenn calling from out west somewhere. And I'm wondering, do the Browns have a dedicated defensive tackle scout, defensive tackle coach? Or is the problem they're having with coaching or with talent they're getting, or a combination of both? Feels like they haven't developed a decent defensive tackle they drafted since Jim Kinnicky. Thank you very much. It's a great show. Bye.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Man, Jim Kinnicky's going back even before my time. The one thing I would say, Quincy, is different systems look for different traits in defensive tackles. And the Browns really, I think Jordan Elliott as a third rounder might be the highest they've drafted in a while.
Time out. I would not stand for this Atiyah Reuben erasure. All right. Like, Atiyah Reuben was one of the best defensive tackles in football. We had him, Phil Taylor. Like, the defensive line was good when they were there. Some of y'all thought Danny Shelton was good. That wasn't me that thought that, but that was some of y'all that thought that was true.
No. Phil Taylor.
Sheldon Richardson was fine when he was here. Like,
yeah.
But they ain't been that long.
His point was drafting and developing, and I think that's.
I was drafted.
I think that's part of the thing they expect to happen with Jim Schwartz. Is it all comes down to the scheme, and I think the scheme under Joe Woods didn't really value a big defensive tackle and linebackers, and they ended up paying for it last year because they were inviting people to run on them, and they said, "Okay, sure." We'll run the ball.
Well, it's also a combination of how much does the scheme value them, right? Now, if you start with the scheme that does not value that player, what else aren't you doing? You're not spending a bunch of money in free agency. You're also, more importantly, not spending a lot of premium draft assets on those positions. So then what happens? You end up filling the positions with what? Third round picks, fourth round picks, a fifth round pick here, a sixth round pick here. And then those guys end up looking like third round picks, fourth round picks, sixth round picks. And then we end up here where we're like, oh, why can't we develop good defensive tackles? Well, have we actually tried to make a good swing at defensive tackle? Let's do the flip side of this, right? What did we know the Browns valued during the Joe Woods era? Defensive back. Do we feel like the Browns have an issue developing defensive backs? It's not a coincidence that they used two of their first picks in the draft on defensive backs in that era, right? Martin Emerson, Greg Newsome. We spent a lot of resources on that position. And where you spend those draft resources, the earlier you spend those draft resources, the better those players are going to be. So it's not a question of if you can develop. It's just a question of allocating the resources, because this front office has shown when they draft somebody early, they are at least going to be a quality starter for this team.
Yeah. The other thing is you're asking guys to do different things. And if you, especially with defensive tackle, they're not going to draft them in the first 10, 12 picks. They just don't. But there are defensive tackles that can do certain things well. They don't do everything well. Do you like him to play over the nose tackle? Can he get into the backfield? The problem is they just haven't identified what they're going to ask a guy to do and then match that with a skill set. And I think that will improve under Jim Schwartz.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, it's the focus on the position, right? Jim Schwartz probably going to – what happened this year? They focused on the position. Their second pick in the draft was Siaki Ika, which, whether you think that's a good pick or not, the prospect, it's a very early investment in a defensive tackle compared to last year where Perion Winfrey was the first defensive tackle they took. He was in the fourth round, late fourth round. So, again, it's about where you take your chances. And if you take your chances, you take those chances early. So that's really what the development thing is about. And if you're wondering why the Browns don't have good defensive tackles, it's more or less a result of kicking that can down the road during the I keep confusing their names, the Joe Woods era, keep kicking that can down the road. Well, eventually that's going to come due. And it's coming, it came due last year. It's still, there's still some things to pay on it.